going on? What's going on? What's going on? This is your boy Isaac, aka the Iceman of the Under No Conditions podcast. Man, how's everybody doing tonight, man? What's going on with you? Miss Tiana White, she is on assignment. She will most definitely be back with us next week. I'm just want to check in with you guys. How's your week been? How's everything going? What's been going on with you? How you living? How's work? How's your love life? And how's all those other things that you determine in your life that you may believe or think that makes you happy. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about, are you really happy with yourself? And that was a question that was asked to me this week on a variety of different occasions. And it wasn't asked to me directly, it was asked to me by other individuals that wasn't sure about what even happiness meant. And I had a chance to really sit back and think about, how do we as individuals define happiness? And as every individual define happiness in their own personal way. Some find happiness through materialism, some find happiness through financial gain, some find happiness through family, some find happiness through their work, through their employee. And the question I want to ask you is, without all those things, would you be happy with yourself? Because when I think about those things that we don't believe that's really tangible, the one thing I think about is the condition. If I didn't have family, or if I didn't have the financial means that I have, or if I didn't have employment that I enjoyed somewhat, and if I didn't have family and friends that I thought that loved me, could and would I be happy with myself? And the question for me at this stage in my life is, yes, I've learned how to be happy without all the things that I thought that were tangible. And I'm gonna explain that to you. It was a time in my life where I had all the money, I had all the cars, I had all the validation, I had most of the things that people today are maybe even just obtaining. And I thought those things outside of myself would make me happy. And many times it didn't, because every time something new came out, I bought it. Every time a brand new pair of kicks came out, I had them on my feet. The newest outfit. I always thought I had to be at the the event. We're gonna call them the events, and so forth and so on. However, what I found out was, when I was by myself and I was locked in that time of loneliness, I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy with myself, because during that period of time in my life, I did not know who I was. I didn't know who Isaac was. And that's a question a lot of us often don't ask ourselves, because we define who we are through validation from our peers, our coworkers, and other outside influences that really don't matter. However, we make them matter. And what happens through that process, the longer that you go through that process and that becomes your validation, you lose yourself a little at a time. And many times what happens is, when we get of age 35, 40, we've had kids, we've been through some relationships that we've learned from, we've been through some relationships that we may be happy in, but at the end of the day, once again, are you happy with yourself? What are you doing for yourself? And that's a very tricky question, because the first question you have to ask yourself is, what really makes you happy? See, it was a time where, even when me being alone, as long as I had a bottle and a blunt and a TV, Man, I was happier than pig in mud. But once all that was gone, I had to deal with me again. Once the validation stopped, I had to deal with me again. Once association outgrew me versus me outgrowing association, I had to deal with myself. When I find myself from job to job thinking this job is going to be better than the next job, or I'm going for the financial gain. However, I still wasn't happy with myself because I didn't know who I was. So one of the things for me that was important to understand when I was going through this journey and I was transitioning in my life into the life that I have today, I had to get real with myself. And I had learned to accept some things about who I was that I had been avoiding for so many years. And because through outside influences and outside validation, I had this idea in my mind that I was always going to be that person. However, life has a tendency to humble you and allow you to look at yourself in ways that sometimes we don't want to look at ourselves. And when that happened with me, I had to really keep my feet to the ground. I had to tie my shoelaces and I had to grow up, which means I had to be accountable for the decisions and the actions that I made. I had to be accountable for everything else that goes around that. I had to be honest with myself. I had to look myself in the mirror and tell myself the things that I know I needed to tell myself instead of lying to myself and living in this fantasy world. Because a lot of times, through outside influence and outside validation, it really becomes a fantasy. Because as you get older and your life begins to mature, the one thing that never stops is time. And as time move on and your life begins to change and it begins to shift and you begin to learn new things about yourself, sometimes it becomes uncomfortable. It really becomes uncomfortable. And that's something that I had to learn how to deal with. I had to learn how to sit in spaces where I had to be uncomfortable. I had to learn how to be that person that could be all right in that uncomfortability. However, what I didn't know at that time was that uncomfortability was going to set me up later to be in a position that I am. Because many times, like I said earlier, when we go through that transition of change and that self validation disappears, and people around us they start to grow and they start to move forward on in your life, and many times we find ourselves stuck in that same place. We got to come to a realization that we got to do something different. It has to happen. And uncomfortability for me became my truth because what it did, it forced me not to only do something different, it also forced me to really take a deep look at myself. So after I put down the bottle, I stopped smoking, I stopped running, I stopped partying, and I started to learn how to be a responsible adult. And I understood the power of developing some character once again and learning how to sit with myself and not be angry at the things that were going on around me, not looking outside of myself to look for that happiness that was internal. Because happiness is an inside job. It starts inside. It starts with how you look at the world, how you look at yourself, and how you think about outside and internal influences. The one thing that really helped me through this process, and I began to understand that because I believe something, that don't mean it was always true. Two, I had to give myself an opportunity to learn from other individuals that knew 6 times as much as I did. I had to learn how to keep my mouth shut, and I had to learn how to open my ears. I had to learn how to not be afraid to ask for assistance, and I had to learn how to be able to tell people I don't know. Because when we influence by those external factors in that process of thinking that we happy, we can't tell people we don't know. I'm afraid to tell somebody I don't know something because I'm always worrying about how they are going to look at me. And once I got through that point in my life where I had to really come to the conclusion was I have to worry about how I look at me. What do I think about myself? And the big thing, my accomplishments meant nothing because they also were was external. My degrees, my pay, what position I was in my job, how people looked at me and my that didn't mean anything because as I began to start paying attention and understanding the world that was around me and the people that I serviced, all those things could be taken away from me in a split second. I can walk into my job tomorrow and they could be like, Isaac, we're moving in a different direction. We no longer need you. At that point, I have to look in the mirror and ask myself, am I still gonna be happy with me, with my with what I've done internally for my life? Because I know I'm gonna put my feet on the ground and I'm gonna keep the grind on and I'm gonna definitely continue to put myself in a position that guess what? I can continue to move forward. So a lot of times what happens is we get so comfortable with all the things that we believe that's tangible. And if you look at them, they're not. It don't matter what kind of car you drive. I don't care if you got a $10,000 purse. I know people got $15,000 purse and ain't got a dime in it, but they got that purse. I know people wear $600, $800 shoes. Guess what? When they take them shoes off, they feet be hurt because they're always looking for those external factors to make them feel good because internally they're not happy about themselves. And if you sit around and you watch people and you observe and you listen to learn, you learn how to listen versus hearing, and you keep your mouth shut and you pay attention, you will realize that 98, 95% of the people that's around you, they are unhappy no matter how much money they make. They not only unhappy, they're alcoholics. They are miserable because once again, they haven't taken the time out to focus on doing that internal work. Instead, they focus on all the external factors that they think that's going to put them in a position to be the person that they have in their head that they should be. And many times that's not the case. I remember it was a time in my life where I would go to work and I would stay at work because I didn't want to look at myself because I made work my everything. And after work, when I was home by myself, I wasn't anything. I was bored. I was all over the place. And it took me a while to go through that process. But once I started to understand is that you know what, I can't continue to allow those external factors to dictate who I am as a person and also to dictate how happy I should be. Because many times those external factors, they will humble you. They will most definitely let you know as much as you praise them, as much as you think that you, you need them or they need you, they will let you know how important you are for them versus being happy and being important for yourself. It's the internal work. We all have to do it. And many times what happens is if you got kids, that's another external factor because we put ourselves into our kids so much that when they become of age and they start developing their own life and they start wanting to do things without us, we take it personal because in that process, we haven't done enough for ourselves internally. We haven't prepared ourselves internally. So when those moments come and our kids get to a place where now they don't want to hang out with dad, now they don't want to hang out with mom, they want to be with their friends, they start developing their own way of thinking, they start developing their own personalities. And because our kids become an external factor in our lives, we lose ourselves. Many parents out here today, as happy as they may tell you they are, they not happy. I'm gonna tell you right now. You got a lot of single parent households. They mothers ain't happy. You got a lot of single father households. Sometimes they not even happy because what happens is that we focus so much on the external stimuli to validate what we need to validate for ourselves internally that we really don't focus on us as individuals. And another hard lesson that I had to learn was as my kids started growing and started maturing, I had to step out of that. I had to let them grow and mature into the person that they needed to be. So, and that gave me time to really just work on myself because as a parent, we only can do the best that we can. Because when they start going out with their friends and they going to the movies and they're hanging out and they going to parties, they're going to be at a place and they're going to be in a position where they're going to have to make some decisions. And a lot of times, as we know as parents, our kids don't make the best decisions. But as parents, we do the best that we can, and we hope we've done the best that we can as parents, so our kids can make those healthy choices when they go out into the world. But in that process, in that transition, I also have to put some emotional tools in place for me so I can continue to learn not only how to be happy with what's going on with my kids, but now I got to start learning how to be happy with myself. Because guess what? That day is going to come where they're going to be gone. And I'm going to be looking in the mirror and I'm going to be looking crazy. So once again, I want to ask you, are you happy with yourself? And if you're not happy with yourself, it's okay to admit that you're not happy with yourself. But once you admit that you're not happy with yourself, I want to ask you, then what are you going to do? Hey, this your boy Isaac, man. I want to thank you guys for allowing me to come on today and just share a little of my experience, some of my knowledge with you. myself, Tiana White, aka Church Lady, and the Under No Conditions podcast. We really appreciate everything that you've done for us. We appreciate all your views. We appreciate all your likes. And we just want to come on here and just share our experiences with you. And hopefully through our podcast and through our own experiences, we can help somebody. For myself, Isaac, and Tiana White, and the UNC crew, we want to let you guys know. If ain't nobody tell you that they love you, guess what, guys? We love you. We out. Have a great week. Stay safe. Keep your feet on the ground and love yourself. Peace.